All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto our power, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachakodash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who taught us His truth and who also were well. Peace and salutations to those of the hopeful elect. All right, just want to do, a quick lesson. Lord's willing is edifying unto the Lord's sheep. All right. Pretty much going into how, Yahweh Shemi Awashai, is, dealing with us as the hopeful elect, in a very specific way versus anybody else that's in the world. All right. And Yahweh Shemi Awashai, develops, his sons. All right. He has a way of developing, his children that are his, okay? And he does that by way of, chastening, okay? And chastening could come in the form, of situational, misfortune, okay? Situational adversities, things that, douses our spirit with that affliction. Right? Things that, pretty much, breaks us. Okay. But not only does the Lord does that, to develop us so that we can overcome, so that we can, rise up through the spirit of power, Yahweh Shema Shai. All right. But also the Lord is looking at how we deal, within how we think. Okay, when things happen to us, what is our mindset towards, adversity, towards, the pain, towards humiliation, towards getting the short end of the stick, all right? Toward constantly taking L's, or you gotta constantly, the Lord could put you in a situation where you gotta constantly take the low, all right? But our mindset is very important because, that's what differentiates, all right, the hopeful elect, okay, from the average person, okay? The elect is able to maintain their integrity towards Yahweh Shema Shai despite, being scourged and chastened by the Lord, okay? Which reminds me of the scripture, all right, in Job, which, I didn't have it lined up, but the Spirit had me, bring it out. This is Job 13:15. It says, though he slay me, yet will I trust in him, but I will maintain my own ways before him. Okay. So Job, perfect example of suffering, the chastening, because the things that the spiritual demon Satan was allowed to do to Job, that's exactly that. He was allowed to do it by the Heavenly Father. All right. So Job was a spiritual man and a righteous man. All right. He understood that everything is of Yahweh Shema Shai. Okay. And he understood that regardless of what he's going through, he was not going to turn to the left or to the right. All right. He was going to maintain his integrity because, that's the best thing to do. All right. And the Most High, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, knew Job was in that spirit. That's why the Lord was so confident when Satan came to challenge Job. Satan came to the Most High and said that Job, will forsake the Most High if you do this and do that to him. All right. But Job, he had the proper mindset. So Job 13:15 again, it says, though he slay me, yet will I trust in him, but I will maintain my own ways before him. He also shall be my salvation, For a hypocrite shall not come before him. Hear diligently my speech and my declaration with your ears. Okay. So Job, Job was like, he was going to continue. Just because Job was catching hell, that don't mean he was going to turn to wickedness. All right. So, he pretty much stood 10 toes down, and he suffered for a season. Okay. As a spirit, I just walked past a vehicle that says resist. Okay. Because the spiritual demon Satan wants you to go off for good. Okay, now the scriptures say a just man falls 7 times to get it back up again, but Satan wants your faith. Satan wants you to be out for the count. Satan don't want you to get back up. All right, and that's the challenge. That's that we have to go through. We have to face these many different adversities. Okay, we go through things, and then Satan is right there, to amplify it. Okay, misfortune might happen, or maybe the Lord, it may seem to us as a misfortune, but then maybe the Lord just wanted us to wait for a better opportunity for something. And we thinking that, the Lord ain't dealing with us and this and that. That's the spiritual demon Satan. So the things that the men of the Lord go through, all right, it's a huge test. All right. And it's very, and it's intensified. Okay. I want to get another precept. This is Luke chapter 21 and 19. It says, "In your patience possess ye your souls." Okay. And the scriptures speak, 144 on the license plate. Call Allah Yahweh Shema Shai. The scriptures say, all right, we have heard the patience of Job, and we're reading Luke 21 and 19. In your patience possess ye your souls. And, patience goes into suffering. Pretty much in your ability to suffer, determines whether or not, you falter. Okay. And the Lord, is going to, stack those weights up, so to speak. The Lord, he's going to push us, to the max. All right. The Lord's going to push us beyond what we think we're capable of. All right. We might, brothers got a full plate. Brothers got to juggle this, and, brothers got to attend to that. Brothers got to be mindful of this. Brothers is fighting through certain things and certain vices, and, it's just going to be a continual battle. But the beautiful thing is the Lord gave us the mind set to attain the victory. Okay. The Lord gave us the mindset which the world doesn't have. Okay. And this is knowledge, wisdom, and understanding which was given unto us by our apostles and elders. Okay. Let me see real quick. Bear with me. I'm trying to word it, the blue letter don't really. Jeremiah 3 and 15. It says, "And I will give you pastors according to mine heart," which that word heart goes into the Hebrew word lab, meaning your mind. So the Lord is going to give us teachers, pastors, ministers, which is the apostles and elders and the bishops, of Great Millstone on down. Okay. And when these lessons go out, when the council, when things are being spoken, the Lord is using, these men, these vessels of righteousness, all right, to get his word across. so that, we can be built up. The scriptures say faith cometh by hearing. All right, so we listen to the lessons. All right, and the Lord knew we was going to listen to the lessons. So, there's specific instruction for each member of the hopeful elect that's going out when these videos go out. Spirit, the scriptures say that the spirit or the word doesn't go out void. Okay. So Jeremiah 3:15, I will give you pastors according to mine heart, which shall feed you. That's the importance of being diligent in the work with knowledge and understanding. Okay. So that knowledge and understanding, Isaiah 33:6, wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times and strength of salvation. Okay. Because we're going to be in the midst of Jacob's trouble as well. We're going to be, presented with famine. We're going to be presented with the plagues, with the gurgle troops. All right. The difference between us and the rest of these people that's going to be consumed by these plagues is the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai is going to deliver us from these things. Okay. When an enemy shall come in like a flood. All right. We're not saying that Esau ain't going to come after us. They're going to come after us full fledged. All right. And not just only us that believe, they're going to try to take out all of Jacob. 2/3 of Israel is going to get caught up. But our defense is going to be Yahweh Shema Shai. All right. The enemy coming like a flood. The Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against them. There was another scripture that says, in famine, he shall redeem thee from death. Okay. So we're going to be in the midst of these things, but we're going to be delivered through having faith in Yahweh Shema Shai, through enduring, through showing patience, through showing integrity while we're going through seeming adversity, seeming distress. And this is the reason why we're going through things in our daily lives now, so that we can, endure what the average person can't endure. Okay. So let me get another precept. And, I'll be getting to close it out. This is Sirach 27, verse 5. The furnace proveth the potter's vessels. So the trial of a man is in his reasoning. Okay. And, the furnace proveth the potter's vessel. Okay. Meaning, the adversity, the hell, it proves whether, an individual is a vessel unto honor, or, and can endure that temperature and come out on the other side, as a vessel of honor, or if that vessel cracks, all right, under that furnace, or that pressure, or that anxiety, or that whatever hell that's afflicting you, your mind, body, and spirit, and if that vessel cracks, you can't display it, So it says the furnace proveth the potter's vessel, so the trial of man is in his reasoning. All right. And this is the reason why some people can go through the worst and bounce back. All right. And then some people can go through something that's not seemingly bad, but then completely just through you. You completely just bug out, or just wig out, or give up. All right. Or let's say an individual goes through something hard or extreme. All right. That can make somebody give up. Okay. All right. But it's the difference between one that can endure and one that can't. It's in their reasoning towards Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. Okay. Abraham, all right, when the Lord put Abraham in a test, through a test, the Lord told him to kill, to sacrifice his son. Right after the Lord said that, that was his son that was going to inherit, the blessings, all right? And Abraham, he had to put his feelings aside and follow the commandments of Yahweh Shema Shai. Okay? And what happened? The Lord stopped it. And he was proven to be a friend of Yahweh Shema Shai. And I believe that's, if I'm not mistaken, that's when he was changed from Abram to Abraham. All right. And that's one account. But, you know, when you read, let me actually get that real quick. All right. Lord's will, I could find it. But pretty much, you know, I can't find it for the sake of time right now. But pretty much it was saying that Abraham, he knew that the Lord was able to bring his son back. All right. So that right there was an example of being in a situation of adversity, the flesh against you, you know, but then using the wisdom of Yahweh Shema Shai, all right, to get through it. You know, because he knew that the Lord could raise his son up again, you know, and he knew that, you know, that was Isaac, you know, that was the, you know, the one that was his, one of his sons that was going to inherit the blessings, all right, that was promised, okay. But then the Lord turned around and said to sacrifice. So Abraham knew, was like, well, hey, the Lord could bring him back, you know. So he, you know, reasoned spiritually, in the spirit, okay. Let me get one more. I'll get a passage and I'll close it out. This is 1 Samuel chapter 30. I'm gonna start at 1. All right, and this is an example of King David and how he reasoned, you know, within himself in a positive way towards a situation of adversity. All right, and he reasoned in the spirit towards Yahweh Shema Shai. Okay. 1 Samuel 31, and it came to pass when David and his men were come to Ziklag on the third day that the Amalekites had invaded the south and Ziklag and smitten Ziklag and burned it with fire and had taken the women captives that were therein. They slew not any, neither great or small, but carried them away and went on their way. So David and his men came to the city, and behold, it was burned with fire, and their wives and their sons and daughters were taken captives. All right, so you gotta imagine that, you know, everybody gone, wives, sons, you know, your family. All right, you don't know where they are, you don't know what's happening to them. All right, you know, your wives could be getting raped, your children could be dead, your daughters could be, you know, the worst. Automatically your mind just goes to the worst, right? It says, then David and the people that were with him lifted up their voice and wept until they had no more power to weep. Okay, because they was, you know, they was impacted, you know, by that adversity, by that situational hell. It was like, gosh damn, you know, we came back, all right, and I'm not too sure if they was coming back from war. I got to read up. But, you know, and your whole family gone, took it, ravished. You know, they probably seen, you know, everything, the house or the houses and stuff messed up. You know, it looked like it was pillage. All right, and you just thinking the worst. Like, you know, it says, so they wept till they had no more power. They just cried till they couldn't cry no more. Verse 5, and David's two wives were taken captives, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess and Abigail the wife of Nabal the Carmelite. And David was greatly distressed. Okay, so King David, you know, he's leading everybody, and they're like, God, you know, God. So pretty much all that hell, all that pressure is upon David. You know what I'm saying? And not only that, David, his wives got taken too. You know, and you know, I'm pretty sure, King David, he loved his wives, right? you know? So I'm going to continue to read. Well, actually, I'm going to get the word for distress. All right. It's Yashar, Yawashar, or Yah. I'm not too sure. It's H 3334. It says to bind, be distressed, be in distress, be cramped, be narrow, be scant, be in straits. With straits meaning positional difficulty. Make narrow, cause distress. Siege, to suffer distress. A primitive root, to press. All right, so his spirit was being pressed, like, It says, pretty much be vexed. Okay. So, that fire, was on King David's spirit of affliction. Okay. And it says, and David was greatly distressed, for the people spake of stoning him, because the soul of all the people was grieved. So now he's like, man, I'm about to get stoned. It says, every man for his sons and for his daughters. It says, and David encouraged himself and it's Lord in all caps. So it's Yahweh, his power. Okay. Yahweh Shema Shai. Okay. So David encouraged himself, meaning he had to, dig within himself. All right. Nobody was there to exhort him. Well, the spirit of Yahweh Shema Shai was there. Okay. But nobody was there to physically be like, hey, King David, you gotta, you gotta turn to the Lord. Yeah. You gotta. No, King David, that was within him to do. Okay. As a man of Yahweh Shema Shai, after a man of the Most High's own heart. So it says to strengthen. So he encouraged himself in the Lord, meaning he strengthened himself. Prevail, harden, be strong, become strong, be courageous, be firm, grow firm. All right. Because he was in a weak state. So he had to, he probably, brought different accounts, like however King David did it. He probably thought of precepts. He turned to Yahweh Shema Shai. And what happened? He went from being in that distressed state to being strengthened. All right. So it says be resolute. Okay. To be strong, grow strong, prevail. That's pretty much to strengthen oneself, to put forth strength, to withstand, to hold strongly with. Okay. So he strengthened himself, or he encouraged himself in the Lord his power. And David said to Abiathar the priest, Ahimelech's son, I pray thee, bring me hither the ephod. And Abiathar brought thither the ephod to David. And David inquired at the Lord, saying, shall I pursue after this troop? Shall I overtake them? And he answered him, pursue, for thou shalt surely overtake them, and without fail recover all. So David went, he and the 600 men that were with him, and came to the brook Besor, where those that were left behind stayed. But David pursued, he and 400 men, for 200 abode behind, which were so faint that they could not go over the brook Besor. So they was faint, meaning, they didn't, they didn't have the same level of belief and faith that King David and his men had, and we can't be faint in this time in Yahweh Shema Shai, or at least the Lord not defend us. Okay. We're going to need, high levels of faith to be able to endure into the end. Especially, we're talking about the worst times known to mankind. Okay. It says, but David pursued he and 400 men for 200. Oh, Slacky. I'm going to read down. And they found an Egyptian in the field and brought him to David. I'm going to read down. It's a Yapah, account. All right. Which when we read these things, we know that these accounts actually happen. Okay. And it happened exactly how it was written. But pretty much, the Lord confirmed that, hey, man, through the Spirit, it was King David was going to recover. All right. And that really was a test. Okay. I'm gonna jump down 1 Samuel 30 and 18. And David recovered all that the Amalekites, which was Esau, the so-called Jew or Jewish, right? A small hat. This is them niggas was the one that did this. All right. And David recovered all that the Amalekites had carried away, and David rescued his 2 wives. And there was nothing lacking to them, neither small nor great, neither sons nor daughters, neither spoil nor anything that they had taken to them. David recovered all. All right. So call halal Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, man. All right. Because Yahweh Bashem Yahushai can do these things for us. Okay. And let's say we do suffer loss. All right. We still got to stick with Yahweh Bashem Yahushai anyway. You know what I'm saying? If we suffer loss, hey, we still. All right. And whatever we lose on this side, the Lord already said we're gonna recover 100-fold in the kingdom. All right. So pretty much we just gotta go, you know. But Yahweh Shema Shai is gonna have mercy. All right. Yahweh Shema Shai is gonna have mercy in this time. Okay. Let me get second Esdras. I believe it's second Esdras 2. Second Esdras. Oh yeah, second Esdras 2 and 26. It says, "As for the servants whom I have given thee, there shall not one of them perish, for I will require them from among thy number." So in this time, you know, hey, those members that their lot is not to be martyrs, all right, hey, they're gonna survive through these times. Okay. It says, "Be not weary, for when the day of trouble and heaviness cometh, others shall weep and be sorrowful, but thou shalt be merry and have abundance." Okay, so it's gonna come a time where, you know, hey, in the time of Jacob's trouble, hey, the Lord is gonna really show that He's with those ones that held it down, even through the tests. Because, you know, when Jacob's trouble happened, the Lord's gonna put His men through those tests. It says, "Then shall they be tried." It said, "Then it shall be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as gold in the fire." All right, but on the other end of that trial, the Lord is going to greatly reward. Okay. And it says, "But thou shalt be merry and have abundance. The heathen shall envy thee, but they shall be able to do nothing against thee, saith the Lord." All right. It says, "My hand shall cover thee, so that thy children shall not see hell. Be joyful, O thou mother, with thy children, for I will deliver thee, saith Yahweh Shema Shai." So, hey, man, just got to keep the faith. And, you know, there's going to be times, hey, we may be separated from our loved ones or our families or our wives. Or, all right, we got to believe that Yahweh Shema Shai is going to reunite us. All right, that the Lord is going to allow us to be good. Okay. So, you know, that was pretty much it. Lord's will, you know, this lesson was edifying. I want to say, call halal Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai Bahashem Akakwadash. Forgive me the spirit to do this lesson. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who taught us His truth. Peace and salutation to those that are hopeful elect. Shalom and above.